Welcome to the Voice of Hope with Marcia Wygum. Marcia promises to be transparent and honest, to help you to rise and pursue your inborn potential to live your best life. She shares stories of faith, adversity, victory, healing, and resources to inspire your rise. Here now is Marcia Wygum.
Welcome to Voice of Hope podcast, where we share stories of inspiration, faith, and victories to help you rise, overcome, and stand strong. Today we have a special guest who's going to help us to understand a thing or two, probably about English language or writing or getting a story out there, or just way of life. You never know. But just be encouraged. I know that that's our whole intent right here, to inspire you to rise and overcome and live. And that inspiration is coming all the way from South Africa today. We have Miss Hanlie Robbertse. Miss Hanlie is a creative writer. She's a coach. She's an author, an alchemist, and healer. She also helps create content. Actually, we are absolutely working together to get my first book out. Miss Hanlie, welcome, Voice of Hope podcast. Who
Thank
is
you so
Hanlie?
much. Thank you so much. You said a lot about me. Like you said, I'm a writer, author, teacher, speaker, traveler, lots of things. But at heart, I am a creative person. I love to create, and I love to see things grow. I love to see when people transform their lives. I love to see when people stand up from the mud where they were stuck in once upon a time. And I love to encourage people, to be better. So, yeah, I would say that's me in a nutshell.
You say over 17 years of being a teacher, right? In English language?
Yes,
Right.
yes.
So, Miss Hanlie, as you say, creative writing, you said an author, a creator of content. Let's just go right ahead and share with us how that person today who's gonna hear us and gonna want to start to get their story out and the book that everybody want to write, but we don't know where to start. How can we find you? Where can we reach out to you?
Well, I'm on Facebook. I have a personal profile, and I do have a writing page too, where I share mainly poetry. I have a website too that's just been launched, so there's not much going on there yet, but it's coming together.
Yes.
And I'm on Instagram and on LinkedIn, so I'm on a few platforms.
But you can go ahead and repeat where your email address you to contact.
My email address is Hanlie, HANLIE .Robbertse, ROBBERTSE @gmail.com. That's probably the best and easiest way to reach me. On Facebook, you can search my name, Hanlie Robbertse, and you'll find me. Right now, my profile picture, I have like a blue sweater on in my profile picture. And on my profile picture are the links to my page, to my LinkedIn, my website link isn't on there yet, which I
Okay.
will do so very quickly.
But once they follow you and reach out to you, then they'll get that
Yeah,
information. And
yeah,
also
yeah.
put that your contact information in the show notes so people can just click on it. Andy, where did it start? Everything has a beginning, to have a middle, to me, and it has an end. I
Yeah.
know you didn't just get up and be a writer, that English teacher, the traveler. Take us on that journey.
Well, I would say I've been involved with words since I was little because I was reading when I was 6 years old. I was reading um, in South Africa. We learn English from a young age. I actually am
Hmm.
bilingual. I'm able to speak Afrikaans, which is an official language of South Africa, and a form of Dutch um, and English. And I've been reading from a very young age. Like at 6 years old, I was already reading English and Afrikaans.
Hmm.
And I mean, when I was about 10 or 11 years old, I was reading with the speed of an adult. So, just to give you an idea, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, I've been an avid reader. I've been involved with words from a very young age. And I also used to like to write stories when I was young,
Yes.
even though I can't really remember what kind of stories they were.
Right, right.
but but I also love to just, you know, write down like quotes that I saw that I liked or things that came up in my mind. So there's been this love of words since a very young age. And so over the years, on and off, you know, I would, you know, just dabble with words a lot. And it wasn't until really about 5 years ago where I really started to take writing seriously. I
Yeah.
landed in a writing boot camp and peeled away layers, and it just really touched me so much. And I started to really understand the power of words. And with the encouragement of a friend, finally, I started my writing page. And it was scary to push
Mm-hmm.
that first publish button. But, you know, it's like practicing. If you want to be a swimmer, what do? You go swimming every day.
Practice.
And writing is the same. If you want to be a good writer, you practice every day.
Right.
And it's become so part of me now that I cannot almost imagine my world without it, you know. And in the last year, I've spread my wings even further. I've started to do book reviews, even though they're not paid, but I do like doing that. It's fun. It's something fun to do, you know.
Yes.
I get I get to read a book for free and I can write a review on it. And I've published one got to no 3 articles published on an online, I would say, wellness website.
Yes.
And I've self published my own book of poetry, and then I've had a few poems published in 3 different anthologies. So, you know, like I say, it's a muscle you have to exercise.
How important it is for parents and caregivers to start to help young kiddos start to learn to read right now. And if it's that important, which you know it is, how would you recommend that we start right now?
Well, yes, it's very, very important because reading, if you can read, you know, you can learn anything that you want to, you know, because there are so many books out there. And so if you're able to read, the world opens to you, you know. You may not be able to travel the world, but through books the world opens to you.
Mm,
And for parents and caregivers to encourage kids to learn to read or to get them interested in reading, I think it's important that they pick books that are appropriate for the child.
Mm.
You know, like the other day, I read and reviewed a book that I was like blown away by. It was a children's book, but it was ingenious because the person combined movement with storytelling,
Hmm.
where, yeah, where they talked about a kangaroo that was learning to jump, a baby kangaroo that was learning to jump,
Right.
and every page the kangaroo did some movements, and then there were like movements that children could copy. And I was like, that's genius. And it's a fun book, it's not difficult. And it's a good thing for a parent to read for a child, and then the parent and the child can do the exercise together. So, yeah, um, try and get books that are appropriate for their age, I would
Right.
say.
Age appropriate book. When can we begin? Because I always hear, it's fine to
You
start
can
to read to them from they're in the womb.
Yeah, you can start reading to them when they're in the womb, because we hear sounds, when we are there. So you can read, um, you know, yeah, read stories to them, appropriate stories to them. So you can never start too early, in my
Too.
opinion.
Sometimes we discount picture reading in kids, you know. But I think we,
Mm,
we need to factor that into, because when a child pick a book up and he can hold that book in the right, position, according to the front stand, and opening the pages, with respect, I think that's a part of reading, right? And
yeah,
appreciating the
yeah.
the material that's in front of us. What was your driving force behind your early reading
Reading.
skills?
I'm not sure. I think it's just I've been what we call a bookworm from an early age. Um, I've never been very good with sports or anything else, so I think books was a good way for me to, learn and interact with the world.
You said you speak two languages. You speak
Yes,
African and English language.
yes, yes.
Tell us something
Yeah.
in African language. Let's hear that
All
sound.
right. Okay. I'm going to say good evening and just say it's nice to be here. Okay.
Okay.
So, goeienaand. Dis baie lekker om vanaand hier te wees.
That sounds beautiful.
Thank you.
You didn't just stop there. So you developed a love of reading. The muscle is strong. You've been reading from a young age of 6 years old. And then, your adult life, you grow up now. You just tell us something about, you wrote a book. You're a published author. You said you wrote the book of poetry. Where can we
Yeah.
find your book of poetry? How many
It's on
books have you written?
just one so far. I'm
Okay.
busy with about two at the same time at the moment. um, so it's available on Amazon only at this point in time,
Yes.
because when I did this book, like many first time authors, I didn't have all the knowledge
Hmm.
I have now back then. So I published through Amazon only. There are other platforms to publish through too. So yeah, I went with Amazon. But yes, it's on Amazon. The book's name is called Wishes of Hope.
Wishes of hope.
In, yes, and it's all about hope, in
I
all
love it.
kinds of forms.
I love it. You see, this is why this podcast, Voice of Hope, is so dear to my heart, because it's not all the time you can find hope,
Mm,
especially given the situation that we're in right now, the pandemic and all these different changes that does hit us. So be able to find people like you who can share hope. It's it's wonderful, right?
yeah, it is, it's definitely, I think, something that the world really needs right now is hope,
Yes.
So, yes, it's very important.
Tell us of a time when time was it was so challenging for you to the point where even though you're a great reader, you're an author, you just couldn't find hope?
There was a specific time where things were difficult for me. If I just think back in 2017, yes, 2017, I got a teaching job in Saudi Arabia, and it was at an international school. And I was very excited because I've always wanted to work in an international school. I
Right.
thought, wow, finally I'm going to do real teaching. You know, it's not that teaching English isn't real, but
Yes.
you want to stretch, you want to keep growing. And so I packed my bags
Mm.
and went. And from the minute I arrived, it was just really hard. First of all, when I arrived, I was told I would be teaching grade one students, and I'm not a grade one teacher.
Mm.
I'm actually a qualified high school teacher. So you need to know that it was like, okay.
Right.
And after some negotiations, the principal said no, she would promote me to high school if I just did this for 6 months. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, okay, I'm sure I can do this for 6 months.
Right.
But little did I know I was inheriting the terrors of the earth because of uh, uh, Islam being a religion in Saudi. Boys and girls are not. They don't go to
Don't
school.
combine them.
Yeah, they don't combine them.
Mm-hmm.
So when I arrived at the school, I had to teach two classes, the boys and the girls. And the girls were fine. They were well behaved, but the boys were really, they had terrible discipline, and they had, you know, they they
Yeah.
just were all over the place. And then to make matters worse, about more than half of both the classes were behind because the teachers that, like me, that were supposed to teach them from the start arrived late because there were problems with our visas and stuff. So they were behind. When I got them there, like I said, over half of both of the classes were so behind. They couldn't read properly, they couldn't write properly. They
Wow.
were just really, really behind. And so that's what I got. And so I started teaching them, and then the school told me I had to do remedial classes, what we call remedial, to try and get the kids that are behind to,
Get caught up.
get them get caught up. And then just everything was just terrible. The school treated us badly. Just it was just a huge, huge nightmare. And I was like, I don't know, how am I going to get out of this? Because, it was a contract for 2 years. So
Wow.
I was really in a bad position. I would literally come home after the day's work. We would finish around 3 o'clock, and I would be so tired. I would sleep for 2 hours, and then I had to wake up and prepare for the next day because, you cannot walk into a classroom unprepared.
Unprepared.
Yeah. And I was just so tired,
Mm.
and so, yeah, I would definitely say that was a situation where I felt like I was not going to get out of that.
But you got out.
Yes, I did.
You got out.
Yeah.
Well, we're so thankful you got out, because right now, when I look at what you're doing and your passion for
Yeah.
helping women to break free and to get their stories out, this is huge, right? This
It's
is this
huge.
is huge and it's needed. because
Yeah.
all of us have a story.
Mm.
All of us have a story. And the beautiful thing about our stories, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the lessons inside of those story and those moments, that's
Mm.
what's needed. And only you and I have that first hand lesson from that
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
Tell us how you're helping women right now with your passion.
Well, I'm still just really beginning with this whole process. It took me a while to get back to my heart, to find out really what I wanted to do. So, yeah, my dream is, first of all, of course, to help women to get their stories out there, by using my experience with self publishing and writing and my knowledge, to help them to write their stories.
Yes.
Because, as you say, the minute we start sharing our stories, the person on the other side of the world that feels lonely and reads that story feels less lonely,
Yes.
you know,
And then you
and
start
they
to feel you tap into, I think what I like is that you tap into that inspiration that comes to you. That's like, wait a
yeah,
minute. So that situation I went through, it is actually a story. I
yeah,
went through this is how I overcome, and then that's the lessons.
yeah. So that's the one thing, if somebody wants to write a book, but they don't know how to, or what's the process, I can help them with that. And then I would love to coach women, that are stuck with self limiting beliefs or um, abusive situations, where they really feel disempowered, and
Mm.
help them, you know, get from that position into a position of, feeling good, feeling empowered, feeling free. So, yeah, that's what I would love to do.
Is this what you would love to do, or is this what you're doing? This is absolutely what you're doing. And I mean, everything is it have a growing phase. So you help women to bring their stories out with your years of experience, lessons learned, and wisdom. So you basically are doing it. You mentioned helping women become free or get unstuck. How does a woman know that she's even stuck?
Well, usually it comes with the feeling of dissatisfaction. You do need to become more aware of yourself, but it usually is a feeling of, something's not right. You feel uneasy. You feel like there's got to be more, to life or to your situation, or you just really, usually, most of the time, I would say you would be aware of that something is not right, that you're stuck,
Yes.
and not everyone knows how to get out of that situation.
I saw your writings, and before we even met, your writing is so clear, it's so organized, it's neat, and
Thank
I I get drawn to these kind of things where it's just like crystal clear, it's to the point. There's no helper words, it's this is what you're saying, and you communicate that very well. How do you do that?
Maybe it's my background in business. I don't know. Where I have worked in an office where I had to be very organized. I don't know. Maybe I, or maybe it's just a natural talent, because I really just have the ability to draw out the most important information, and get it out there. And when you write, there's always this thing that they talk about. They say, you don't tell, you show.
Mm,
And I think that might be part of it too, that somehow I've learned how to show and not tell people what to think, so I generally just write what comes to my mind, and it just comes out in a natural flow. So yeah.
Show, don't tell. Is that what you
Yeah.
said?
Yeah.
That's powerful, because then it sounds to me then like that kind of process, that kind of way of doing it, it eliminate all of the unnecessary things,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, you listen to Miss Hanlie Robbertse. She is an author. She is a writer. She's a speaker and an English language teacher. She speaks 2 languages. Woo, she's a content creator. Man, she's full. And she is a perfect person that you want in your corner to help you get your stories out, so that you don't just get a huge, fluff out, but you get information that's going to show and tell what you're talking about, right? Tell us about the writing process. How do we get the story out? How do we show it? Don't show it, don't tell it, right? How do we do that? Where should we start?
Well, I say we always start with the big idea and then we break it down, so uh, for instance, my one book that I'm working on right now, the name is called Undefined. And so
Undefined.
the title should tell you what it's about, right? Already. And everything that's going inside is going to be all freshly, never seen before published pieces that I'm writing from scratch, And it's talking about labels, how society labels us.
Oh,
So, and, breaking down those labels, those definitions we give to ourselves and people put on us.
yes.
So for me, this one is very different from the other one, where the other book was about hope. And I sat, when I was doing that book, I was like, okay, so how do I break hope down? So those were all pieces that were published before. So I
Yes.
went through all of my writing published pieces and I looked for pieces that were about hope. And then I started to find themes within that. So the book for that one was divided into 5 main sections. It was hope and life, hope and darkness, hope and you, and hope and love. So within the main themes, there were poems that supported the main theme. But for a book where it's like a novel or a memoir or something, again, you start with the big idea. And you basically, what I told you is you go and you do what we call a brain
Brenda.
dump or a brainstorm. You literally, and you take a timer, you set it for 15 minutes, and if it goes over 15 minutes, it's okay. And you just write down all of the ideas around that theme. Okay. So, whatever the theme is, you don't need to have a title when you think about a book.
Hmm.
So, say for instance, you want to write a
That's good
book.
right there.
Yeah, the title can come later. Say for instance, you want to write a book about empowering women.
Yes.
So, you don't worry about the theme right now, but what you do is like, okay, so let me go do a brain dump or brainstorm about everything that I can think of about empowerment and women. And you just write, you write until you're done.
Wow.
And there is magic. There is literally a lot more magic in taking a pen to paper um, than typing it up on a computer. There's nothing wrong doing it like that. But when you put your pen to paper and you just start to write, it's like meditation. And it's actually a freeing exercise too.
Yes.
So the best thing is to, when you do that brain dump, is to take your pen, get a huge piece of paper or 10 pieces of paper, and just write everything that comes out. But you need to set aside a time and don't be disturbed. Don't let your thoughts be interrupted. Just write what comes to mind. And you'll be amazed, to see what comes out. I mean, yesterday I was writing some things. I was working through some course materials of things that I'm doing for myself. And I didn't think about it. I read the question and I just answered it. And I was amazed about what comes out. And sometimes when you write so much, you forget about that magic of putting pen on paper and just letting it flow.
I like that because even with the brain dump, I was able to sit down and do some writing and some stuff came out and it feels like, that probably could feel like the first part, but
Yeah.
as I say, don't worry about it. You just keep dumping. Sometimes, we think about writing, we think about the title, the cover and all of this stuff. But I like what you said, don't worry about, the title and everything will come later on, you
Yeah.
know? It feels like it's key and it makes sense.
Mm.
Another thing that we worry about probably is how everything is being organized. But like there's somebody out there to edit that.
We get stuck for many reasons. Sometimes we get stuck because we're scared, um, where nobody's going to read our book,
Yeah. Mhm. It's a
or
huge one.
there's different reasons why you get stuck, or you get stuck on saying to yourself, but I need a title. It's not true, you know. Um, if you have a theme or something you want to write about, the title will reveal itself to you. You
Oh,
know, don't get hung up on small things, or don't get stuck on small things. You know, just start writing.
mm,
Um, Let me just give you this silly example of the book that I'm working on right now.
yes.
I mean, I started writing it because there was this competition that I thought I wanted to submit to. It's called button poetry. I don't know if you know button poetry, but button poetry is poetry. It's a movement that was started, especially talking about suicide awareness. And that's what button poetry is. And they have like a chap book competition every year. And I came to the party a little bit late, and I decided I wanted to try and submit for it.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I got busy when it got close to the deadline, and then my creativity just usually, you know, goes to the back burner. And I decided I couldn't submit because I didn't have enough material. But when that was over, I looked at this and I was like, this is going to be my second book, and the title came like that, and it was
Mm,
like, okay, and so don't what I want to say is, don't get stuck on the little details. Don't let the little things trip you up. You write, and you write everything, and then what I call the cleaning process starts, the editing, the making it look nice, the title. By then the title will have revealed it to you if
listen.
you haven't if you haven't gotten it yet. The title can come from your brain dump, but don't let the fear of not having a title or the idea that you should have a title stop you from writing the book.
Let's go back to Undefined. So that's going to be your next book.
Mm.
When are you expecting to publish Undefined?
I haven't set myself a deadline. I'm bad. I know I should.
Okay, here's a great idea. Let's set it now. Give us an
maybe I should.
estimate.
Maybe I should set it for my birthday, November this year.
Ladies and gentlemen, November of this year, 2021, we are expecting the release of Hanlie Robbertse's second book, Undefined. And I feel like I love it already. I love when you said there's things inside of Undefined, your second book, that's never been seen before. I start to get curious already. And that's why I wanted to know, when can we expect it? So we're saying, you're saying now probably about November. You're going to be doing the work to get it out to us.
Yeah.
Did you say inside of Undefined, you are dealing with some topics and like hope, labels, and all that? Did you say that?
I'm not sure much about hope, but it definitely a lot about labels, about limiting beliefs, about the power of words, I would also say, and yes, very much about labels and inequality. That's something that really gets me up in arms when I witness inequality. It really hurts my heart. So this is an attempt to just really put down my feelings and my own experiences around, where people have put labels on me, you know, and to just get that onto paper.
Wow. I love the word label. Can you explore with me a little bit on labels? Because the community, the women, the men and the women, the families who we're all of this podcast and empowerment to help them to rise. A group out of it is women and families who have children with a developmental diagnosis. And you might know that a developmental diagnosis is a label, right? And as a result of that label, you have babies right now, especially kids with diagnosed with Down syndrome. I am that Down syndrome mom. Our son is 2 years old right now. And I have spoken to numerous amount of women. I've read articles, and we come to there's a conclusion that there's not enough information given to a woman when she's been diagnosed with a child a developmental diagnosis. And to me, that's a label, right? When you think about Down syndrome, Down's was the doctor. Dr. Downs labeled the syndromes, right?
Yeah.
And kids, as a result of that, kids have been terminated. They've been given up for adoption. They've been left to just be, because you're disabled. You have no use to society, basically. I mean, numerous articles, and the stories are similar, right? Terminate. So I hate the word labels, but at the same time, let's explore it a little bit. How damaging is label? How can we get to that place where that mom who's listening right now, so she can realize that you can have a great life with your baby as is? The diagnosis is happened, yes, but it's a label. That's not your sweet boy or girl that you were, planned to bring into this world. What should we do when it comes to label?
I think it's a really tough thing or concept to break down, because as humans we like to put things into boxes or to put labels on it because it helps us organize things into class. The minute it brings order to our lives, the minute we cannot label something, we have problems with it.
Mm.
So it's a way for humans to process life. So it's a really hard thing to kind of dismantle. I mean, we all know there's the thing about race, there's a thing about religion, there's a thing about gender, there's a thing, like you say, about kids with you
Developmental
know,
diagnosis.
yeah. Um, but there's where people that defy those odds or those labels are so inspirational. If we talk about Down syndrome, there's been so many Down syndrome like kids that has done phenomenal things
Oh,
in this world, you know. And as hard as it is when doctors tell you, but there's no hope, or you know, this child will not go anywhere in the world. We need to start to really, I think, listen to what our hearts say, and to believe that we can change despite the label. The child is capable of, you know despite the label. um, so it's more of having faith in your abilities as, say, a mother, and the abilities of your child, and not to put limits on the child because of what society says.
and we probably could add to that too by saying the potential of a thing is within the thing.
Yeah,
We can have a
yeah,
great life. Your baby, your child, your relative, all the potential is inside. And just like Anila said, there's a lot of people out there with diagnosis, and they're super. Why? Because their potential is within, you know, and that potential get developed by the
yeah,
people who they have as caregivers, or who they have in the
mm,
environment. Like you said you started reading from an early age of 6. You didn't just get up and start do this. There was people in your environment that help you, right?
yeah.
Thank you so much for exploring a little bit on undefined. I can't wait for it in November. I love that there's things in there that's fresh off the press, never seen before. Content creation.
Mhm.
You're not only an author, you're not only a speaker, you're not only an English teacher or coach. You create content. And
Yeah.
with everything right now, it's online, business, brick and mortar closes, and we bring it online. Everybody, I think, should want to know you and to meet you and to find you to help with content creation. Tell us about that. What is it? What do you do?
Well, of course, I use words, but I'm also very visual, so I can't paint. So I use images that I feel connect what I'm trying to say, to the words. So, for instance, I make workbooks for courses, So I'll find an image that suits the topic of the workbook. All right. Like, for instance, when I was still teaching, I created my own textbook for my one course I taught, and I found the appropriate images to accompany the textbook. All right. So that was still a very raw, but as I do it more, of course, I refine and I get better.
Yes.
Um, and so it's not just workbooks, it's like, if people do workshops, I create PowerPoints, things like that, or, a simple journal, um, or a blog post, or an article. Um, I am working with somebody else now that's um, busy building her own business, and I'm her content creator. And I laid out the whole website for her.
You just do the content only for the website, or you also can create the website?
Well, I've created my own WordPress site. So on WordPress, I'm certainly able to. I've worked with Wix before too, but mainly content. If it's about programming, not so much. But like WordPress is basically drag and drop, so it's not that difficult. It's
All right.
very intuitive, but certainly content, yes. But what I mean with when I did the layout for the website, I just had they gave me all of these things and I was like, okay. And then I just had a vision. And so I plugged everything into PowerPoint because Word sometimes can be difficult to work with. And I said, this is what it should look like, or, this is the idea. And that's just how I work lots of times. I get a vision of what it should look like, and then I just need to get creative to get it out.
Remind us again of how we can find you.
Well, like I said, Facebook. If you search for my name, you should be able to find me. Um, there might be more than one person with the same name than me, but I wear a blue sweater in my profile photo with glasses and blonde hair. And then my email address is actually easier than that. And I will repeat that again. It's Hanlie, Hanlie dot Robertse, Robbertse @gmail.com.
I'm going to also put the information in the show notes so that people can reach out to you to get your service. Where should we begin? We think about writing, getting our books out. When we think about reading for young people, for kids at the early age, when you think about labels, those things you say grind your gears, you grind minds too, because the true potential is within the thing. It never on
Mm,
the outside. Just need to be developed, right? We all have a
sure.
story inside of us. And most of the time we don't know where to start. We get hooked up on the design of the cup, the cover, the title, we read it, we're typing or we're writing and we're editing at the same time when there's somebody else out there to do that. Give us something to think about.
Well, I would say that you should never think your story is not worth to be told, you know, because you never know whose life you may impact in the end. There is this guy, I think it's a guy,
Hmm.
that started this movement called Humans in New York. And he's actually brought out a book about it. And what he did is he went and he interviewed normal people
Yes.
on the street of New York. And he asked them about their lives. And then he published a photo of this person and then their story. It wasn't long stories, it was probably about 500 words at the most, not long stories, not book stories, a whole book, just like a page. And I often read those stories, and those stories all taught me something,
Mm.
you know, taught me something about humanity. And I think that's what it is about in the end is when I tell you my story, you hear something and it gives you hope, or it tells you, hey, but I'm not alone. There's somebody else that's gone through the same exact thing than I. So you should never underestimate the power of a story.
I love what you say. No, you never know whose life your story or my story or the next person who's going to listen to this right now. You never know what transformation is going to happen, what inspired action they're going to take. Because that's what we're after when we share the lessons, the inspired actions, right? Because
Yeah.
then it's going to spark your power. It's going to spark your potential that's within, never
Mm.
outside,
Mm.
right?
Just be yourself. Don't let labels,
Okay.
block you.
Here we're talking to you as an author, and you're saying, you have your first book out, you are working on your second right now, and we're looking out for it in November. You create content for people, so you take the stress off of us who don't know what we're doing, right? And you make it in beautiful blogs and information that goes on website and what's not. This is what it looks like, it feels like when you come on to writing. Get the story out your head, dump it on the paper, and let somebody else who has the wisdom, the grace, take care of it. And that's why we want to reach out to Hanlie and book an appointment with her, get her coaching, get her wisdom, check out her books. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, if you like what you're seeing here, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to email us with your concerns, your prayer requests, or just about anything. We're definitely going to have the information for Hanlie so that you can reach out to her. And if you also like what we're doing and you want to join the other people who are partnering with us financially, do so. And guess what? This is the internet, so you don't have to do anything like that either. But reach out to us at voiceofhopepodcast, the number 1 at gmail.com. And until next time, get those stories out. Just keep dumping them on the paper. You know where to find Hanlie, because we're going to make sure our information is accessible. And she'll take care of the rest. Until next time, walk good.
You have been listening to Voice of Hope with Marcia Wygum. We're glad that you were able to join us today and that you found the program inspiring. For further information, please email voiceofhopepodcast1@gmail.com. That's voiceofhopepodcast1@gmail.com. Listen again next time for Voice of Hope. Hello, I'm Sydney Thorpe. Synthesizer is here to help you meet your audio recording needs. Call or WhatsApp 876-281-2801, or you can email me at sidnesizer@gmail.com or sidnesizer@outlook.com. Or you can Skype me using Synthesizer as my Skype name. Synthesizer. We can talk. Synthesizer, where we love to make good things happen.